Yo, 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 welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. And before we get to our guest today, we have a big shout out for Living Sisu. Living Sisu is a platform and app that wants to give you all the tools to have success in your sport. Their main objective is to activate your lifestyle. So it's for active people. Enjoy discounts at companies like BioSteel, 30% off, Body Logics, the Goalie Guild, all his books are discounted. Roan, Lululemon for men, 20% off. Online stretching programs with Eccentrics, 1 full month free. They got super silent massage guns, 20% off those. And it's a great quality. It's way less expensive than a Theragun, and it's great quality. So there's so many more discounts that you guys will need to just become a member to see. So they want to provide you with anything you need for success. So come join the community. I'm a part of it. A bunch of other athletes are a part of it. So it's free to join. It takes 20 seconds to get exclusive offers to your sport, and it's definitely worth it. So do us a huge favor and go sign up for Living Sisu's membership. It's free, 20 takes 20 seconds. So go do it, and we'll see you there. Living Sisu is a great company. We know one of the co-founders, Zach Fricali. He's a great guy. He's the co-founder. He does a lot of live streams on Instagram at Living Sisu, with a bunch of elite athletes, and you learn a lot from like the athletes' determination, their resiliency, everything to what made them become successful. So it's been a great experience so far. So go on. I'm gonna leave the link in the description. So go sign up. Welcome back to another episode of On the Spot Sports. I'm Jack, and in today's episode we are joined by a very special guest, professional hockey goaltender Nick Modica. Nick most recently played in the Federal Prospects Hockey League for the Carolina Thunderbirds. Nick just finished his second full season of professional hockey. He also played his junior hockey days in the USPHL Elite before playing 4 years of NCAA Division III college hockey for SUNY Portland prior to turning pro. So I'm very excited to have you on, Nick. So welcome to the show, Nick Modica.
Thanks, buds. Appreciate it. It was a good introduction.
Yeah, thank you. I always like to give my guests the top introduction that I can. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
The longest one I've ever had in my career, I think.
I'm glad to be the first one. But how have you been? Like, it's been like a busy summer. Like, I know things didn't go as well as you planned it to be last season. Like, how's everything going with you, and just everything with summer and just enjoying time off from the ice?
Yeah, man, it's been good. I think we spoke a bit before on it, but I hurt myself pretty good last season. So kind of the first summer, I've not really had much to do, and just trying to rehab my hip before getting surgery. So yeah, it's been good. A lot of fun. Get to spend a lot of time with my fiance out in Michigan. So it's been a different change of pace for sure.
Yeah, so like what have you been doing since you're not getting on the ice anytime soon or putting the pads on? Like, besides like hanging out with your fiance and all that, like what have you came up with any like good hobbies that you haven't really taken a part of before?
Been golfing a ton lately. That's I'm not great, but I love to get out there with the boys a bit. My like group of friends out here, they're big campers, and I come from a town in New York, right outside New York City. We don't see much camping, so I think I'm not necessarily sure it's a hobby yet, but gone probably more times in the last month than I have in my life.
Yeah, golf is always a time that you could enjoy with the boys, and like doesn't matter how good or how bad you are, like it's just fun to go out, hit the links, and just throw a cold one back, drink some beer, whatever, and just shoot the shit a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Find another place to not worry about anything else.
Exactly. Are there any good courses up in Michigan where you're at?
Yeah, there's actually a couple of really good ones. I know our coach of the Thunderbirds, Garrett, he used to coach in Saginaw. I have a couple of buddies from over there, so there's a pretty good course that he used to live on, the Sawmill, which is pretty good. It's a lot of fun to play there. So anytime I can get out there, it's good. And then I live in Lansing, so we're about like an hour from Ann Arbor. Ann Arbor's got some good golf, and both the campus courses are pretty good. So some good golf out in Michigan. I thought it was kind of snowy and crappy all year, but the summer shocked me.
Yeah, so you're up by Michigan State over there, and like I'm sure there's a bunch of good college towns over there, college bars that you probably are going to, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny in the summer. Like I came to visit a couple of times during the year last year, and it's like obviously jumping when football's going and kids are on campus. But the summer, it's like a ghost town. It's kind of like crazy. But I think students are moving in this weekend, so town's about to ramp up again, and I'll probably try to stay inside and away from that shit.
Oh yeah, for sure. But it's always good when there's not a lot of people there and you can go enjoy it because once college hits, like it's a whole different barn over there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm fired up for football season. I've never been to like a college football game, so probably going to be more of a Go
Yeah.
Blue fan than I am a Sparty fan, but we'll get to both.
Yeah, you got to go to a Michigan State and Michigan game for sure if you're up there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but to start things off, like you grew up in outside of New York City in Suffern, New York. So like what was growing up in Suffern, New York like and just being able to play youth hockey around there?
Yeah, it's actually like my youth hockey story around there is interesting. I'm not the biggest guy in the world, and I had trouble like mites finding a team that I could play goalie for that was like okay with having a little small kid play goalie. So like even like when I played Pee-wees, like I never played in like travel in my hometown. I played for the Youth Devils, which is like a 45, 50-minute drive for me in New Jersey. The first mite team I played on was like another 50-minute drive up in the mountains. Like the only teams that that were willing to let me play. So like I never really played travel from my hometown. And like my first look of playing close to home was when I played in high school. Luckily, we had a pretty good public program there, so it was pretty proud to play there for 4 years, and we won a state championship my sophomore year, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So like what got you into being a goaltender? Like I'm a goaltender too. And like everyone always looks at us like we're crazy. And for the record, we probably are because we're stopping pucks that are shot as hard as people can take a slap shot at us. But like what got you into goaltending?
My brother, who is like so funny, he's legit like 6'1". He was a forward growing up, so I always needed someone to like go in the net or just like get shot at in the driveway or whatever it was. So yeah, I never actually played another position. Like usually, you know how guys will start like D or
Yeah.
whatever. Like no, never knew anything other than putting the pads on.
Yeah, that's unreal. And then you get to like the older levels and you can start customizing your pads and everything. Like I think that's what draws a lot of people to the position is the customization of everything. So like how much fun do you have like designing and like looking at masks and pads and all that?
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. I remember sitting on like I compared to like kids that like you'll go on like a car customizer like customize like
Yeah.
a new I don't know whatever like newest like Lamborghini or something that came out like that to me is like getting like a new set of pads and being able to customize it. Or even back I remember before they had the online customizers you'd get like the Vaughn like printout and you'd have like crayons and just start like coloring and stuff. So yeah, I'm a gear guy for sure. So that's definitely my favorite part.
Yeah, and like I'll just randomly go on the Brian's customizer, the Bauer customizer, and I'll just play around. And I'm like, I'm not gonna get these pads because they're so damn expensive. But like, I enjoy playing around with it and like seeing what kind of colorways you come up with, and like try to like tease your friends a little bit that you might be getting, even though you have no shot.
Yeah, you're like convince yourself. You're like, oh, like I wouldn't go with those. I'd go with like these other ones. You're like legit no chance of like ever getting them, but you like, convince yourself otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a lot of fun to customize them and everything. Like, have you customized your mask before?
Yeah, we did. The mask I was wearing like the last 3 years I did in school. It was actually like a wrap, like a I don't know, like almost like a vinyl wrap, way cheaper than paint. So that was cool. We did that in college. Um, was supposed to get a Carolina one for last year, and then I ended up getting hurt. So we kind of kiboshed that sponsorship idea. So the last one I customized was in college, but it was pretty cool. I got to like put my own touch on it, have my nickname on it. So that was pretty cool.
What was your Carolina mask supposed to be like?
we were gonna we like it's funny how like things work in the Fed. Like everything is it's a very sponsorship run, like
Yeah.
teams and leagues. So we were kind of just gonna go around and get a couple of businesses, see if they're interested, and then kind of sell different portions of the mask and put their business on it or kind of whatever they wanted to. So not really sure how it would have turned out. I think it would have been like kind of a jigsaw puzzle of next Winston-Salem history, but never got to do it.
And that's unfortunate, but like it probably would have been cool to look at, even if it was a jigsaw puzzle. Like people got to put pieces together, and like that'll create a lot of conversation there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but like you were talking about earlier, you didn't really play in your hometown, so like you had to travel around a lot because you were shorter and people wouldn't give you a shot. But you found yourself with the Devils youth program in 16U, 18U. You went on to the Jersey Hitmen. So like, what was it like playing for the New Jersey Devil youth hockey program, and then going into the Jersey Hitmen route?
Yeah, it's like it's interesting that probably the most like influential, best coaches and like group of guys I had in my career were with the Devils. I think that, we got to play that Pee Wee Quebec tournament. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but went there with the Devils, and that was like, I still have like two of my best friends from that team, and they're both still playing. I think one's just signed on the coast, and the other one might be going over to Europe. But like legit met the best people. Like the most growth I ever had as a player was in the Devils organization. And then right around the time that I was going to 18s, I think a couple of our coaches left, transitioned to the Hitmen. So it was an easy decision to go over there. And the Hitmen are a 20-minute drive from where I grew up, and the Devils were about 50 minutes. So that was an easy decision to make. But yeah, they couldn't like have scripted it any better. I still talk to like all the coaches I had over the Devils. We try to do camps every summer and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really cool to see those guys are doing well still.
Yeah, so like what was that like growth growing up, and like in when you're with the Devils youth organization, just like since that was one of your bigger like development periods, like just what did you see in your development that really like took an eye for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was maturing at a younger age. I think like my outlook on hockey probably still now maybe a little bit overboard every once and again. Like it's fun for me, I've never like had kind of that where like thought process where it's a job. It's I love coming to the rink, love having a ton of fun. I'm always like trying to pick on the guys. They're probably way more outspoken than guys are typically used to with goalies. So yeah, when I got there, it was just a lot of like quick growing up to do, and kind of finding a way to still have fun around the rink, but treat it more as, a job, and realizing something that your parents are putting a lot of time and sweat equity and money into. So yeah, that was definitely just figuring out how to grow up and mature in the right way and still keep it fun and light around the rink.
Yeah, I feel like when you do want to get to the higher levels, like you grow up a lot faster because you have to go through all the adversity that goaltenders do every single year, and athletes, hockey players, whatever. And like you just have to just continue to find like that extra element to help you go above and beyond, and just help grow your maturity and like how you handle things, because it is a big thing, especially with goaltending, of how you handle that adversity.
Yeah, for sure. I think, so much of the game is mental that like, when you're younger, you don't even realize like half the crap is like, if your head's in the right spot, like you're going to be way better off. So I think I probably had a little bit of a harder learning curve with that than most guys, but yeah, we all get there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like it is a lot. It has a lot to do with the mental side, because like if like bad thoughts keep getting in your head and you don't know how to flip that switch to bring positive thoughts in, like you could be thinking, oh, I'm gonna give up 6 goals tonight, and then what do you think is gonna happen? You're gonna give up 6 goals. If that thought comes in your mind, you're gonna keep getting lit up. So it's definitely big about like the mindset. So like, what have you learned about mindset, and just to have like those positive thoughts instead of just having those negative mindset?
Yeah, I think there's really like a couple different things I'd probably combine with. First, I probably started this right when I was like 17 or 18. I meditate before every game. There's like a little app. It's called Headspace. It's a sweet app if you ever want to look into it. It's even good for like, everyday life stuff, like just kind of like figuring out how to deal with like outside noise thoughts and stuff like that. So I figured like that, found that was like huge, not just for my game, but like in everyday, like whether it was school or, life at home, whatever it was, just kind of figuring out how to like accept outside thoughts, right? Like you're always going to have them. They're always going to be, around and negativity, whatever, but it kind of teaches you how to deal with that noise while going through everyday stuff. And that's definitely been huge. And then the other aspect, I think, like back to what we were talking about, like maturing, I found like early that the more I like overthink or like try to like approach a game super professionally, dial in, like think about like every play or, try to picture the game in my head pre-game or whatever it is, the worse I play immediately. So like mine was just kind of finding like, how do I keep it light and still like come off as a guy that's focused in the room or something like that, not just like our goalies, fucking around 10 minutes before warm up, like what's he up to? So I think that was kind of the biggest thing, and just like finding, how to keep it light, but, stay focused and find a routine to kind of tap into that a little bit.
Yeah, that is a big thing, especially like a lot of goalies do like to visualize and all that, and like whatever works for you might not work for someone else. So, like for you, like if you do that, like you're gonna have a bad game, but like if someone else does that, like they're gonna have the greatest game of their career. Like it's amazing how like that all works, and like if like everyone's completely different, so like it makes sense, but like it's also crazy to think about.
Yeah, I'm so like, I feel like I'm so skewed where like I've listened to a couple of guys on there and they're like, visualize, and I'm like so on the other side of the spectrum, man. It's like you do so much preparing and practice and stuff that like by the time you get to, if it's the day of the game or a couple hours before warm-ups, like nothing that you think about or there's nothing you can do in that 4 hour time span between 3 o'clock in the game that's going to make any difference whatsoever. So that's just always my thought process was like you practice like you play, and then that your homework is practice, and by the time you get to the game, like you did your homework right, it should be pretty easy going.
Yeah, and like the preparation process is very important, especially as a goaltender. Like you just gotta trust in your training. You gotta be confident, because confidence is huge as a goalie, and like you just gotta stand tall and make the saves, especially like the ones that you shouldn't be making. You gotta somehow find a way to make that save, and it's just all about like that confidence and like the preparation you put in with training and everything.
Yeah, for sure. It's the most fun part is getting to the game and just letting it loose and kind of showing what you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. But then going back in your youth hockey days a little bit here, with the Hitmen, you played 18U for AAA and in the USPHL 18U, and you put up some incredible numbers there. You played 8 games, .88 goals against average, 960 save percentage. So what went into that success of just having a great year with the Hitmen for 2 years straight?
Yeah, I think like a lot of it had to do with kind of being able to move back like home and having more like a structure, especially around that time that I was kind of maturing and really taking it more seriously. I think a lot of the training over at the Hitmen, like they were kind of at that time just getting started with the young, like the U18, U16 programs. And
Yeah.
I think when I was there, the U18 team was like unreal. I think they had like 20 D1 commits or something. So it was like right away, like you're trying to, practice like you play and try to get called up for a game or a weekend or whatever it was. So yeah, I think going back to the Hitmen kind of was my first look at what the next level could look like. And, when you're playing youth hockey, it's hard to, especially as a goalie, you don't necessarily see like the growth rate in front of you or like the potential to be able to get called up for a weekend or something like that. So the Hitman was the first time that, if you played well or a goalie got hurt or something, you had the ability to get called up or travel with the other guys. So yeah, that was a pretty cool experience being able to see it firsthand.
Yeah. So like growing up throughout like these organizations, like what were some of your fondest memories that you had playing in these organizations and just enjoying the game and just going to the rink and just letting everything loose?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys probably say this, but like the bus rides is probably the first thing that comes to mind. Like the Hitman was the first time that I'd ever taken a bus. I think U16, so that's probably pretty standard. But yeah, it's just the bus trips, man, and making the memories on the road. Like those are all the memories that you have growing up. Obviously, you lose out on a lot of stuff in high school, and like I think I didn't even go to my own prom. So the stuff that normal people look back on, you don't really have. So it's those being able to make those friendships with a bunch of random guys that you don't go to school with, and you get to see a lot of different lives and meet people from a lot of different walks of life. So yeah, it's a lot of diversity and different things that typical people probably don't get the chance to see when they're growing up.
Yeah, and you got to sacrifice a lot, especially if you want to get to that higher level and keep moving up the ranks. Like you got to sacrifice a lot, like your prom in high school, and going to parties on the weekends, get that extra sleep. But like at the end of the day, it's all worth it. And like you're just spending time with the boys, and like the boys are make for the best memories.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun when you get to college and you're playing on the team than I'll go for missing prom any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. But then you go into junior hockey after your 18U year, and you're with the New Jersey Hitmen, the USPHL Elite League, where you played 2 years there. So what was that experience like going to juniors and finding a team? Or you were already with the Hitman organization, so did you just like get that bump up to the next level?
Yeah, it was kind of strange. After I graduated, I think I went out to Green Bay for their camp. Was there for like a week. Obviously, didn't make the team. Then I went out to Cooley in the NA. Stayed there for like I think that was either a week or two, and I was like pretty set. I'm like I think like I want to play in the NA, and then ended up like they had two pretty good goalies, and I think I was like just gonna be a practice guy maybe, and I'm like I'm probably just gonna go back home and see if I could stay and play there. So yeah, it was like kind of rocky. I thought I was gonna be able to live away from home, which is something I always wanted to do. Which obviously I didn't get to do until I went to college because I stayed at home and played for the Hitmen, but which it was a good situation there. But yeah, just decided to stay, play at the Hitmen, see if you could put together a good year and go play in the NA or see, if anyone else had any interest. And then 1 year led to two and kind of went from there.
Yeah, so like what do you learn like when you go through situations and adversity like that, and then just like you want to go to the NA, to the North American League, but then you don't get the opportunity and you just have to stay there. Like what do you learn throughout those 2 years that just really help you like stay in the present, focus in on going to college next?
Yeah, it's like strange because like I don't view myself as an older guy, but now like we never had like I don't know agents or necessarily like I feel like there still wasn't that much like incredible information out when I was
Yeah.
like 16, 17. So like you just like didn't know. Like I think I answered an email was like at Green Bay's camp over like an email, probably a guy that had never seen me play before, and then like went to Cooley's camp from there, and like same type of thing. Like there was no you couldn't pull up a video and like see what an organization is about or something like that. So yeah, I think it was just like at that point I was like, God, I think I'm just gonna like go home and control what you can, find a place where you're gonna play, because you also don't want to get stuck in a situation where you're great, you're in the NA, but you're maybe not playing or something like that. So the guys over at the Hitman were great about it. And they're like, listen, you're gonna get to where you want to go if you want to play in college. Just stay, play your game, and if you play like you can play, someone will find you, and if you don't, then that's on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of took
And
it like that way.
yeah, and it's like it's important to get those reps too, especially yeah, like being a third string like brings in a lot of like good topics and all that to learn and everything, but like you also need that like that game action that you need to be successful, and like just to keep getting the resume that you need and just to keep growing from there. So like it's good that you got that opportunity in the USP and was able to just make the most out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I think it was like made my decision easier. Like I knew right away that I didn't want to be an age out. Like I like kind of it's so strange how I like where like how I felt. Like I knew I only had like X amount of time in me before I'd be like, like I don't really know if I'm gonna do another year. So like always kind of pictured it that way, and luckily, it just kind of worked out.
Yeah, so like how important is it to be to control what you can control, because a lot of people like struggle with like completely like going with the controllables, and like instead of not like also dragging in uncontrollables in, and just being able to focus on what you can control, because that'll get you to the next opportunity.
Yeah, it's something that I think you learn at like a pretty young age, especially being a goalie. Like one guy plays,
Yeah.
it's not like it's not like you're a forward and you take like a shift off, maybe you don't back check or something. Like it's totally different. So yeah, maybe more goalie than anything else is to control what you can. Like I said, like I never wanted to play my overage year, and like I think it was probably like August, the year that I went to school, like moving for college is probably like 20 days away. I was signed another year to play with the Hitmen, had maybe one or two schools that were interested for the following year. And then Cortland, a school I never even visited, called and they're like, hey, one of our goalies couldn't get in. Do you want to come? And so like I ended up just like saying yes before like anything else, just like kind of worked out. So yeah, control what you can, and like things like that I feel like happen more often than not, where it's just like right place, right time, and somebody gives you a chance along the way and try to make the most of it.
Yeah, and like you said, you got that opportunity in Cortland where you were able to play there for 4 years of NCAA Division III college hockey. So like, what was that first year going in? Like, did you have like any expectations, or you're just gonna go with the flow of things?
Yeah, it was like I had such an interesting college career in the beginning. Like when I first got there, I came in with another freshman goalie. The third goalie that we had was a returning junior who had started like every game since his freshman year. Like he was the guy that was like clear coach, like, hey, we have our guy, you guys are kind of just here,
Yeah.
battle each other out for number 2 spot. But like I think he played like every SUNYAC game and maybe took like 1 or 2 nights off the season. So then like my freshman year, kind of like same thing, was not really screwing around, but just kind of enjoying the college life. Like I didn't really stress about playing because it was like very, like our coach like very adamant, like you're not playing. We have our guy, like just kind of do your thing and stay out of trouble. So I tried to stay out of trouble as much as I could, but like first couple weeks into the season, just having some fun at practice and whatnot. Our coach like has a meeting with me and he's like, hey, like you're our third goalie and you're probably not going to play in like your 4 years here if you like basically take it as serious as you are. And then like 2 weeks later, our other goalie like ended up getting arrested. And then our starter got pulled. So I ended up going in the game like 8 days after our coach was like, you're never going to play. So like I had such an up and down of emotion when I first got there. I'm like, this can't be what college hockey is like. So obviously turned it around a little bit and took things more serious and like really wanted to kind of make myself a big part of the turning the tide at how the tradition of hockey was at Cortland. And that was a big turning point for me for sure.
Yeah, and it goes back to that growth mindset and like just being able to mature as a person. Like you're enjoying the college life a little bit, and then you get thrown into the fire and don't do too hot with your coach and everything. But then you settle everything in, and then you go into year 2 where you got to play more games than your last year. You got in 2 games that year. So like, what was it like to like, even though you're not playing as much and not being the starter or the guy yet, but like just continue to see that, like just that step forward of the program?
Yeah, it was really cool. I think like the goalie that we had, like I learned a ton from. He was like, I think he put up sick numbers, like probably a couple school records, like really good goalie. I learned a lot as far as preparation and like taking things a bit more seriously from him. And by his sophomore year, it was kind of like this, like I said, the script was already written. Like that was our guy, and it wasn't like so strange. Like I wasn't put in a position to be able to like fight for a starting spot. It was like, you ended up winning the backup competition my freshman year, which is great. And then came, over the summer, coach was like, hey, like you're number 2, but like same thing, basically like don't fuck with Drew's head and stay ready if he gets hurt. So that was pretty much it. Like it was actually, relatively simple, and I learned a lot about myself and was able to get my grades a little bit under control for my next year, where I got to start. I think I started like every game my junior year, and maybe everyone but one my senior year. So definitely learned a lot about myself for sure.
Yeah, so like during that time when you do get the backup role, are you just like taking the practices as games, like now that it's a little more serious and like you got to stay ready and like just take those extra reps when needed just to stay ready in case?
Yeah, you're obviously there. You once you get to high level college like that, like the SUNYAC is an unbelievable conference. Like the guys that come out of there are some pretty good hockey players. So I think a lot of it is like learning. It's the first ever time where when you're backing up, you're not necessarily like, you want the guy that's playing to do well. Like, you don't want to kind of get in the way, and you form a good relationship with the guys that are on the team. You're really like, such a tight family. So yeah, I think it's a lot different. You try to be there for the other goalie. Like if, maybe a Thursday, you're probably taking a lot more reps than the starter is or stuff like that. So yeah, at the same time, you're trying to like hone your game in, you're trying to take some, workload off of the guy that's a starter, and, trying to give him some not, I wouldn't say tips, but, some confidence boosters, between whistles and the SUNY actors TV timeout. So, just keeping morale high and trying to be like just a good guy, good locker room guy, and, wait your turn.
Trying to be the glue guy to keep everyone together.
Yeah, it's big culture guy.
Oh yeah, love that. And then you go into years 3 and 4 where you become the guy starting 24 and 20 games in those 2 years. So like what was that third year like, just to get that starting role and be the guy and just having to learn everything that you did from like the guy last year that started every game before that?
Yeah, it was sick, man. Like, probably like one of the most fulfilling things I've done in my career was to kind of see that progression, and then finally, get the chance. It was nice to know, like, when he left, I think the conversation before I left campus that before that summer was like, you're the guy, get your summer training in and we'll go from there. And it wasn't like a nervous where I was like trying to fight for a spot and maybe was uncomfortable going into a game. Like, we had a guy that was a good backup, but not necessarily like ready to start, like a bit of a younger guy under me. So that my junior year. So it was like, I was in such a comfortable spot, felt prepared. You do so much work. It was basically 2 years of preparing to play in the SUNYAC. So yeah, no nerves. And it was like, it was almost like a dream come true. It's crazy. It was a pretty fun time.
Yeah, you prepared for this moment for 2 years and took everything a lot more seriously, and then you got that opportunity and you did it. You went pretty well in those games too. And like, I think you're 9-13 your first year, and then 9-9 your fourth year. So like, what was that last year like for you, especially like when, like, are you thinking about like going into the pro ranks, or are you just worried about the season?
No, I didn't even know the Fed existed until until my phone rang after my senior year. No, I think like I said, I think the most important thing was kind of like turning around the program at Cortland. Like, I know like the SUNYAC is a hard conference. I think that my class ended up beating every team in the SUNYAC. So like Geneseo, Oswego, Platte, those are all teams that, like, you circle the calendar and they're fucking hard to play in your barn or theirs. Like, it's not fun to play those guys. So that was pretty cool. It's tough to get out of the SUNYAC. But my junior year is actually such a funny story. It's got Bailey McBurney is in it from Columbus. We have an unspoken rivalry because I don't think we've ever said one word to each other. But we went to play in the UMass Boston tournament my junior year. They were ranked like second in the country, and we weren't ranked at all. And we ended up beating them in the championship. Like, I think it was a 2-1 game with like 12 or 13 seconds left. We scored on like a greasy rebound goal, and Bailey was the goalie there. So I got him beat on that one. And then I think we beat him a shootout earlier this year. So I got the rivalry on him, but I don't know if he's aware of it or not. He probably has no clue who I am.
He's probably, who's this guy?
He has no idea who I am. I can promise you that.
That's funny, but hey, you love those rivalries because when you do like have that rivalry, even if it's just yourself, like you want to beat the other guy, and like you battle and compete even a little bit harder than normal.
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of leading off of that, like, it's so funny in the SUNYAC, like the way that it's set up, like you're almost more excited for like the big SUNYAC games, and like the out of conference games are always the most fun because you get like typically a tournament, a season that's out of conference. You get to play some other teams. So in my senior year, we went to go play Norwich, who was ranked 1 in the country at the time. And we ended up beating them in the championship in a shootout. So my class was like, I think we were like 3-0 in tournament play. And then once we'd get back to campus for the second half of the year, we just like shit the bed and couldn't figure out how to win a damn game.
You love when that happens, when everything's going right, and then you come back halfway through and nothing is going right, and you guys don't know how to win a game.
Yeah, you like beat like the number 1 team, like come back and lose to like, I don't know, like Potsdam or Morrisville, who's like not even ranked. And you're like, how the fuck is this happening?
It's funny how sometimes that evens out, and you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, but then you go after your senior year, you go into the Fed where you didn't even know the Fed existed. It's like, what was the process like to to sign in Carolina when you did right out of school?
Yeah, see, I keep giving you these like interesting stories. So right after the season, I think we got knocked out of playoffs or out of playoff contention on like Sunday or something in Cortland, and then next day I got a call from Birmingham in the SP maybe. Yeah, I think so. I think they were in Pensy. They needed a goalie. And I like knew a little bit about the SP. We had a couple of guys that had come through Portland that had played there. And the guy was like, I don't even know who I spoke to. And he's like, hey man, like we need a goalie to back up in Pensy on Friday. And then we'll probably just release you, but like we need you to come down. And I'm like, well, drive down to Florida from New York, sit the bench, and then like get cut, drive back. I'm like, there's no chance. So I'm like, don't want to sound like a douche, but I'm like, I'm all set, man. And then a couple like said teams reached out. Watertown had reached out. It's funny, like I played my first game against Watertown, but they'd reached out and were like, come to practice twice this week and we'll kind of like evaluate and see like what our goalie situation is. And I like at the time was probably too invested in like my major in school to be like, all right, like I'm gonna go there, come back, go to class, like wait to see what they say. Carolina ended up calling the next day. I think Andre called me. Like this guy Andre calls me and he's like, hey, it was like a Wednesday or Thursday. He's like, we're on the bus to Watertown. We have no goalie. We need you. And it's like broken accent. I'm like, yeah, like they need me. I'm like fucking right. They're going to play here. So then ended up playing like Friday and Saturday in Watertown. And then afterwards, like just, obviously made friends with every fucking European guy on that team. And they're like, you're coming down to us. And I'm like, all right, done deal. So yeah, it was an easy decision. That was like such a fun group of guys for your first like pro experience, and like not a lot of English in the locker room, but like, it was a blast.
Yeah, and you get in 4 games during that last stretch of the season. So like, what was it like to get that foot in the door and get to like play 4 professional games that right out of school?
Yeah, it was sick, man. Like when I got to Watertown, like we didn't have a backup. So I played both those games, and then we went down to Carolina. We got my first taste of the Carolina-Columbus rivalry like right away, Friday night home in Winston-Salem, which is like absolutely electric, which actually was the weekend of the melee, the famous melee. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen that video. That was actually like my third pro game. I was in net that game, obviously not on the camera for the fight because it was probably hiding in the bench or something. But yeah, it was a fun first year. Like I think Kelly Curl was my backup. We didn't have another guy, so yeah, I got to play every game that I wanted to play and didn't really have anyone to tell me that I did good or bad, which is great.
Yeah, so was that like your what the fuck moment? Was the melee that happened? Just like what did go on during that melee? Because it was a whole mess.
Oh, dude, it was such a mess. It's so funny, like, because you hear all the stories about that rivalry. Like when I first got there, and a lot of guys are still buddies with, Krupi and Petro, and I've gotten to know those guys, a pretty good amount. Like they're absolute beauties. So much fun to play against those guys and chit chat, whatever. But like it was so weird because like Krupi, I think, was like in the hallway talking to a couple guys before the game. So I'm like, oh, this is like, the rivalry is not like what it's cracked up to be. Everybody seems like you're pretty good friends here. And it was just, I think we were up like, it was the first period. We must have been up like, I don't know, 4-1, 5-1. They changed their goalie. We score like right off the draw. Send out like Andre, like you always like paired the Europeans together. Sends out like it's like 5-1. Sends out the European line, boom, goal. So they changed their goalie again. I think it was Karpinski and Rutledge at the time. So then now every whistle, they're changing goalies. Boom Boom has these guys changing goalies, which is like now there's no rules against it. So now it's just like fucking taking forever. So like the second period, I shit you not, offside, goalie change, icing, goalie change. So now like Andre's beaking their bench, the boys are getting fired up, and it just like escalated from there. I mean, that was nobody was stopping what was about to go on.
Yeah, because I work with Carps now at a pro shop, and like I remember him having him on the podcast, and he's shared that story, and like That was an electric melee that happened. Like you never would think that would happen, but like it like things like that happen in the Fed.
Dude, it's the funniest story. I've told this a couple of times. I don't know Carps at all. I've never met them. But so they're changing the goalies, and then like these fights start breaking out. So I'm like over at the bench. I think it's like they're trying to get like a TV timeout in while it's like semi-pro style. Like turn the cameras off, we'll fight when they're off. So I'm over at the bench, and Kelly is on the bench. He's back up for the night, and he's like taping up his wrists. And for anyone that doesn't know, Kelly Curl like played in the league for a couple of years, like a little bit of an older guy. So like at the time, I'd never seen him play. So I'm like, I don't know like what this guy is up to right now. So I'm by the bench. He goes, "Hey, their goalie, who's Carps at the time, he's like, if he like goes to fight, you got to grab him, you got to fight him." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, sure, whatever, dude." I see Carps take his helmet off. He's like a fucking full-grown, bald-headed man. I'm looking back at Kelly. I'm like, brother, no chance I fight that guy. If he comes over here, you gotta hop onto the ice for sure. So like, I ended up like not having to do anything, but like, yeah, fuck. If there's one guy I'm not fighting, I saw Carps take his bucket off. There was no chance.
That's hilarious. And like, yeah, like I like he's a tough customer, and especially like when he gets fired up, like I don't want to square up with him.
Yeah, no way. Like I would have given him my gear if he asked for it. There was no chance, man.
You would have ran out of the rink if he was coming down at you.
Yeah, I've never talked to Rudder about this, but when the fight started going on, I was looking at because the away team gets on the ice like kind of in a weird spot in Carolina. I shit you not, I got to go back and watch the video. Rutledge like just got off the ice and went into the locker room, and he was like the other goalie.
I had no part of that.
Yeah, he's like, I am not dealing with this. Got right off the ice, so he definitely had the right idea on that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But that year you went 2-2. So what was it like to get that first pro win out of the way?
Yeah, it was sweet. I think I probably gave up like 5 or 6 goals, I think, in Watertown, which isn't great. But yeah, a lot of fun. Obviously something that like you always, say you dream about as a goalie, getting your first pro win. So that was really cool, and did a little speech in front of the room. Like I said, we had like, I think 12 or 13 Euros at the time. So like not only are you nervous at your first pro game, but like Andre included, nobody really spoke English as a first language. So it was a very strange situation to get thrown into, but it was really fun, man. That bus ride and those apartments with those guys are something I'll remember forever.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then you go into the following year where you played 20 games for the Thunderbirds, going 5-6. Like, it was during a weird time, but like, what was it like to play during like a pandemic that was going on, just to be able to play as many games as you did?
Oh, that was COVID season was unreal. Probably most skilled team I've played for. Yeah, I mean, other than college for sure. The best group of guys, I think like more than half that team has games in the coast, or guys are playing in the SP, whatever it is. That was probably the most fun I've ever had playing hockey in my career, was that COVID season. Everything's shut down. There's nothing to do. And you get to go to the rink, and Andre's running his fucking boot camp, and the boys are just shooting and hollering. So that was the most fun, I think. For anyone that doesn't know here, we couldn't play any home games because we weren't allowed to have fans in Carolina. So that was a full 20 something games we played on the road. It was on the road every Thursday, get home like every Monday or Tuesday, kind of depending on what went on. And like we had like we had a bus breakdown in Elmira. I think our first trip, it took us like 26 hours to get back to Winston. It was like went through 2 buses, everything was breaking down. And it's like, for anyone that doesn't know Andre Nietzsche, like it's a disservice, because this guy, when something like not to plan goes down, is full rage in like the funniest European way. Like it's fucking unbelievable the way that this guy like acts. It's it's a spectacle for sure. So that was an unbelievable year. Yeah, it was a ton of fun.
So those are stories that don't get old from hearing, like just bus breakdowns. Like they bring the boys together, because like you spend 20 plus hours in a bus. Like the road trips are the best parts when you're with the boys and just enjoying your time with each other.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, in college, I mean, it happens maybe like once or twice a season where you have like a big win and maybe you get a couple beers on the
Yeah.
bus. But at the Fed, it's like you're leaving from Carolina to go to New York, like you're just fucking drinking beers until you can't see anymore. So bus breaks down, it's the opportunity to hit the gas station and see what damage you can do before you get back home. So it's like a weird way of life, but dude, it's like the most fun times are when the bus breaks down. You're just like looking at each other like this fucking dog shit right now, but like you just laugh about it. There's nothing to do. So yeah, it's fun.
That's hilarious. All good times. That's for sure. But like, what do you learn? Like, especially when you're playing 20 games in a season during a odd time. Like, what did you learn those first 2 years of playing pro?
Yeah, I think you're kind of going around the same storyline here. Is like you really can't control a lot of shit that goes on. And I think I was lucky just the way that like I kind of prepared for the game. Playing in the Fed was easy decision, and I don't really worry about that shit like bus breaks down or whatever is gonna happen. The refs are brutal. Like it is what it is. The ice in the South sucks. Like Columbus on a 2-game weekend in the third period on a Saturday is just like the puck is a bouncy ball. It's crazy. So I think I learned a lot about just like trying to prepare like the same way you can every time. Crazy things are going to happen. You can't let them get to you. Fans are nuts. We're having beer thrown on us between periods in Columbus and fans screaming in Danbury this year. So yeah, just like controlling what you can and kind of getting a good laugh at all the other stuff that goes on.
Yeah, exactly. So well, you guys got beer dumped on you in Columbus?
Oh my God, dude, this story is like unbelievable. So it was this past year, we go to Columbus and it's like a crazy intense game. I think they ended up going up by 1 with like a minute left in the third. Right before like I hit the bench to get pulled, we tie it up. We go to OT. It like maybe in the same like sequence right before we tied it up, I tried to fight MJ Graham. We don't get along like at all. So I think we probably almost fought each other like 3 or 4 times that game. I don't know if he'd actually fight a goalie, but he's in my height class. He'd probably beat the shit out of me, but we're at least the same height, so that's cool. So we're just like jawing at each other the whole game, like super intense. Obviously, shit's flying. We tie up the game. We go to like an 8 or 9 round shootout. You'll have to correct me on that one. Grammer comes down and he always like stick handles in front of himself. I'm like, okay, like, he's not gonna beat me to the post. So I just kind of wait him out. And he like kind of stops, pulls the puck like back around me, scores right away. I'm like, okay, like that's no goal. Like he went backwards. There's no way that counts. I go to turn to the ref. Doesn't want anything to do with me. Their mascot's already on the ice. Like their fans are going nuts. McBurney was a goalie that game. Like just everything coming full circle. He's like selling down the ice and just fucking brutal. So I tomahawk my stick into the glass, like at like the guy who turns on the goal light, like not on purpose, but just like fuck. Head to the locker room, like throw my helmet, like ripped it against the wall, just like pissed. Like played a great game, man. Like leg was bothering me, same thing, like that hip injury. So just like a lot of emotions afterwards. Yeah. I get like half my shit off. Like I'm just bottoms, no tops. One of our scratches comes running in and he's like, Mo, like they called it off. So you got to go back out there. Like the shootout's going. I'm like, dude, my gear is everywhere. And like the walk to the locker room in Columbus is not like a short walk. So I'm like, holy fuck. So like trying to get my shit back on. I put my bucket back on. I like broke the sweatband.
Yeah.
It like broke, dude. So it's like dangling in my eye like a fucking eye patch as I'm trying to like buzz back. I don't even have a stick because I tomahawked it. So I like rip my sweatband off. I get on the ice and my backup stick is on top of the net. I guess like one of the guys put it there because I totally splintered the stick that I threw at the glass. And then the shootout just like continues. We go down, like we score. I forget who, maybe Bersani came down, saved it. We win. So like right away, I do the same celly that McBurney had just done. I do the same thing right down center ice, just like, fuck you. And their fans are just like like throwing beers, full water bottles, like just laying everything onto the ice. Like guys are getting hit. It was bananas. So like that Columbus rivalry is real.
That's something else. That's a rivalry that you don't fuck with.
Yeah, exactly. So I love playing in that place. It's probably like I'd rather play there than in Winston almost. That place is electric.
Yeah, it's you could tell just from like the YouTube streams and everything like that. Building's packed, like it's buzzing, like like all the fans are passionate about their team, and like it's just an unreal atmosphere to play in.
Yeah, their fans are actually super nice. Like if you're a decent player on a team that comes in, like they respect you. They'll wait after the game. Like I think I have a couple Facebook photos. I gave a couple kids sticks after some games there, and I have a good relationship with a couple families that'll shoot me a Facebook DM or grab me a couple of beers for the bus ride home after we play them. So there's some good people around the league for sure that care a lot about the guys, regardless of who you play for.
A certified good guy, I guess you are then.
Yeah, I don't know if a lot, like some guys will say that, but there's definitely a couple of guys that try to grab my jersey once or twice before. That probably pissed off a little too much.
Wow, that's crazy. But then you play 7 games this year before, unfortunately, getting hurt, where you had to get sidelined for a few months. Then you come back for playoffs, like you were talking about earlier. So, like, what was this whirlwind of a year like, especially since you did get injured? Then you came back and played the playoffs while being like half injured.
Yeah, like I said, the injury that I had was like pretty significant. I pulled like a muscle off of my pelvis, which is like right there. It's a 5 to 6 month recovery. On top of that, I tore a muscle into my abdomen and tore my hip labrum. So it was just like when I did it, I thought I broke my hip. Like it was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life, dude. It was horrible. My whole leg blew up, black and blue everywhere. So like after, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, kind of got the results back, and they're like, you could either get a surgery that's a 6 to 9 month recovery, or we'll try to rehab it as best as we can. Obviously, your muscle doesn't reattach to your bone, so you kind of just get a cortisone shot and deal with the pain. So I was rehabbing probably 3 times a week for like 4.5 months. It was actually brutal. Like Carolina was great, and I was able to stay around the guys, and got to see the coaching side of things. Stayed behind the bench, made a couple of decisions lineup wise. I don't know if Rudder will probably say that he forced me into decisions, and I like to say I had at least a little bit of control. So it was cool to see that side of stuff, but it was really hard, staying away from the game, couldn't practice, and that part sucked. But I started to get healthy at the end of the year, and I probably could have played maybe 2 or 3 weeks earlier. But at the time, the plan was just like, we're going to wait till playoffs, first game's yours, and kind of see how it goes from there. So I had a couple good weeks of practice. I knew I'd be all right for a game or two. I didn't know that I'd be playing 6 games in 8 days across 4 states. That probably wasn't the healthiest thing to do in the world, but yeah, it was really fun to get back out there. I was so close to the group that we had last year, and it was tough not to be in the net, every night.
Yeah, so you go into the coaching side of things after you get injured and sidelined for a little bit. It's like, what was that coaching experience like, and just being able to see the game from a completely different perspective?
Yeah, it was really cool. Coaching is, something I never really thought about getting into up until this past year. I loved it. It was obviously a bit different, at the beginning of the season. I obviously was a pretty big part of like the group that came back, and with Butita and, the guys, their leadership group and stuff there. So it was kind of weird to like transition into not being like the glue guy and like fucking around and like trying to act serious around the boys, and like on the road, not necessarily gassing beers after a loss or something like that. Like, so I think that part was like probably the most difficult to distance myself while still like, knowing that my clock playing pro is probably, getting pretty empty. So that was like a really weird division for me, but it was really fun to see that side of things and, kind of be behind what decisions are made and how to see the game a little bit differently. I think it's one thing to see it from the blue paint, but to see it from the bench is like a completely different animal.
Yeah, like when you get like both those perspectives from the crease and coaching, it's like you sometimes like feel like it's completely different, but like you feel like you can relate more because you are from the coaching perspective, and you can actually like tell what guys are going through and like how they see the game compared to how you see it like in the crease.
Yeah, it opens your eyes up a lot. I think like majority of what I did was kind of just, be the voice of reason, and guys are going through, ups and downs, obviously, and try to keep the morale high. And, if you're you're the one who they're picking on, make sure things are going all right, then you're doing the right thing. So a lot of jokes probably fell at my feet at that time, but it's all right.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have a few more questions before we wrap things up here. So, do you have any tips for goaltenders looking to get to that next level?
Yeah, I think if there's anything I've learned in my career, it's control what you can, and like be true to who yourself day in and day out. You're not really going to get much out of showing up to the rink at 50%. Like I kind of went through that when I was way younger, and realized that made a huge difference. Like you don't have to be the best guy, but there's one thing you can control, and that's your effort. And so like there's a couple of things I always had this like up in my room growing up, or poster in my college room. There's like the things that don't take any effort to do, like showing up early at time, at least getting a stretch, preparing, that type of stuff. Like it takes zero skill to do any of those things. So yeah, just effort, and kind of making sure you're punctual on the things that don't take any skill, or there's no difference between you and I being able to show up somewhere on time and prepared. So that's probably the number one tip I got.
Yeah, those are some great tips, and like everyone can prove that that's a great tip, because you don't need skill to show up early or put in the work. Like you just got to go and do it. Like there's no difference between anyone. Like anyone can do it.
Yeah, I was never the most skilled guy, or the tallest guy, or the strongest guy, but like, fuck, if you're gonna be there, you might as well work a little hard and get a sweat going.
Yeah, exactly. And then my next question is, you're trying to get a pump in before a game, or you're trying to listen to music before you lift, and or during your lift, and like listen to pregame warm-ups. Like what are you listening to?
This is gonna be out of left field. Never anything that like gets your blood flowing. I don't know. In college, I was a huge Taylor Swift guy. Probably rock some country beforehand, but I'm not like the biggest like pop headphones in and dial in. Like I have to hear what's going on around, whether it's like the concession guy like fumbling some fucking popcorn in the hallway, or like the boys cracking a joke playing soccer. Like I would lose it if I had to put my headphones on and like try to dial in. So it's usually just like background, like elevator music for all I care. I got nothing that I pop on before.
Yeah. Hey, whatever works. Like I'll listen to country music before games. Like whatever gets the juices flowing, I guess.
I'm like the worst guy for that question. Like guys are like to dial in, and like they got their go-to songs. I don't know, maybe I'll throw Drake on in the background or something, but I could not tell you a song that I listened to like before I put my gear on or something like that. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's funny. But my last question is, what's your game day routine? Like you're either home or away. Like what are you doing to prepare for that game, and before, after, morning skate, before the game? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, so we didn't really do morning skates in college, maybe a couple times here and there, but I'm like a negative Nancy when it comes to morning skate. I will do everything I can to not put my gear on in the morning and morning skate. Like my thought process behind it is like, you typically, like by the time you get to a Thursday practice, you're going, you usually feel pretty good after, Thursday. If you don't, you'll do some extra work, whatever. The only thing that can happen on Friday morning is like, you don't feel good about yourself. Like, you know what I mean? Like you let in a couple squeakers and like, oh fuck, tonight's going to be a long night. So my game day routine is get out of morning skate at all costs, which Rutledge fucking it probably hated. But Andre, like if we had won a game, or we were on like a streak or something, I'd throw my wheels on it and just like go play forward and try to tap in some rebounds or something. But yeah, pregame is light, like morning skate if I can, go take a nap, probably play some chell. Like all of my buddies still play, so like whether it's SP or wherever they are, a couple Fed guys. So hop on the Xbox, everyone kind of does the same thing. And then like I don't have a eating routine. I know a lot of guys are big into that, eat, 3 or 4 hours before. I'm like, if I remember to eat on time, great. If I'm like fucking grab a muffin on the way to the rank, I'm so bad at that stuff, man. Like I probably should have dialed in a little bit better now looking back on it. But yeah, like I'll have a sandwich between periods if I'm hungry. Like I'm all over the place. So I got just try to take a nap, and like if I feel rested, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's unreal. You're all over the place. Like you could eat between periods, like going to the rink a couple hours before. Like no, like it just depends on the day.
That's the Fed, man. Like you don't really know. Like when you're on the road, you have no clue when you're gonna eat.
That
Like
is true.
let's get break down, whatever. The one constant thing I would say, like my dad, he's my biggest supporter, my biggest hero for sure. He sends me the same text message before every game, probably since I was like 18. Even if he like wasn't on the road or whatever, it's like the same kind of blurb, and it's kind of like a play on words. Like it's not too serious. It's exactly how my game is. He's like, yeah, make a couple saves if he can. It's like not anything crazy inspirational or whatever, but like just seeing that pop in is always a good feeling. There's been a couple times where I haven't gotten it, and usually those games don't go so well. So he's got that one dialed in.
At least you got the text. Look back if you have to. If you don't get one, you just look back at the text. Like, there we go.
Yeah, the best is if we have to get a fucking 4-day roadie, it's just like we won't talk, but it'll be just like same message 4 times in a row, and like I don't even respond to it. It's just like he knows I see it. I like that's just kind of like we don't really talk about it, but yeah, he gets it done.
Yeah, that's unreal. But Nick, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate your time, and I hope your recovery goes well and everything. I look forward to following your career the rest of the way when you are healthy.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll keep you in the loop, and hopefully we'll get on here. Maybe we'll do a little preseason scouting, or I'll get on during the season and see if we can run through some of the boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally down for that.
Sweet. Sounds good, man.